Let's think out loud. That's what we do here. Welcome to another edition of Thinking Out Loud, everybody. My name is Andrew Siciliano. We thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, whatever it is you do to spread the word about this. This is a show. We do it every couple days, once or twice a week. We should be a little bit more regular. There are things you could take, supplements for that these days. We'll get to that a little bit later. Regardless, hope you enjoyed week number 10. It is finally over. Week number 10 for me was a bye week. The Browns were on a bye. So for the very first time all season, and for only honestly a handful of times ever in the last 20 years, I was able to sit on my derriere on the couch and watch football all day. And then I went to a game, a busman's holiday, as my grandfather used to call it. I went to the Rams and the Dolphins. Of all the games I've been to, that was certainly one of them. Great atmosphere on a Monday night in L.A. Rams didn't play well. Dolphins saved their season. Get to that coming up in a second. So watch games all day and then went to a game on a week in which I didn't have to go. It's a get-to job, not a got-to job that I have. I love that. Obviously, very fortunate to do this, but didn't have to. And I just consumed football. And we are here to wrap up week 10 and look ahead to week 11. And as we do that, I say we, it's always yours truly and Sam Patesh here. Hi, Sam. Let me say this. And I did this on the TikTok and the Instagram and everything. Sunday evening before the Texans and Lions kicked off, I want to, if I had a hat on, doff my cap to NFL fans and say, God bless you all. And I mean this with the most heartfelt gratitude here. Thank you for being the fans that you are. It is exhausting to sit on the couch all day Sunday. And you and I have had this conversation during the playoffs, right? Because that's normally for years, 18 years doing the Red Zone channel. That was my first chance, wild card weekend, to sit on the couch.
Yes.
Like top to bottom, like start to finish. Sam, I did that this Sunday, again, on the bye week, except this Sunday included a London game. No, I'm sorry, a Munich game.
Munich, yep.
So that was a 6:30 Pacific kick. And then after 10 hours of games, I did oh my God, my back hurts. I need to get out of the house, get some vitamin D. So I did that and then was back on the couch for 3.5 hours watching Tirico and Collinsworth call the Lions and the Texans. Oh my God, it is exhausting being an NFL fan. Thank you to each and every one of you. You guys do this every week?
Andrew, can I welcome you to the circle? Can I welcome you to the circle of Sunday, if you will? You've been so much a part of Sundays for so long because the NFL has been a huge part of both of our lives, but you've been either on a field or in a studio for so many of those. And to be on the couch, what a pleasure it was for you. Andrew, you've been to my house. Maybe we'll share some photos later or some video, but my living room.
Taking people around your house. We've seen it. I get it. You have a lot of TVs.
What I mean is, right. My point is, people design their lives around what you did. That's Sunday. I put 4 TVs up in my house, in my living room. My wife's got opinions about that, as you can imagine, but we've got 4 televisions there to just consume on Sunday to truly try to take all of it in. I'm just so thrilled for you that not only did you get a chance, including the international game, to be up even earlier, but wow, the games as well. And even after you had posted for Lions Texans to also be a game of that ilk to further throw your back out watching football. I mean, that was just truly special.
Well, yeah, I'm getting old first and foremost. That's why my back hurt. I had to get up and stretch. I have a very deep couch, first world problems. And so it's not really good for my posture or my couch. But hey, in all seriousness, without people that sit on the couch for 10 hours every Sunday, and none of us have jobs. And I always do mean this. I can't emphasize this enough. Without fans, none of us are here. Players don't get contracts. TVs aren't turned on. None of us have jobs. This machine that is the National Football League, that is international sport, is fueled by fans. Fans come first. Always should. And it was good to be a fan. Good to go to a game as a fan, which is what I did on Monday night. Good to be back with the Ramley, people I work with for 14 years. And good to be back going to work as well this week with the Browns on the road in New Orleans against the Saints, and then a TNF game next Thursday, and then I got a college game coming up after that as well. So busy week coming up and thrilled for that busy week. Thrilled to talk, obviously, about the footballs here with you as well. Let's get to the news that broke this morning, and honestly, news that could have and should have broken on Monday. And that is the Bears have fired their offensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. No, I'm sorry. Matt Eberflus. Take two. Andrew, you take two. Matt Eberflus has fired Shane Waldron, who I got to know a little bit, not well, when he was a coach with the Rams here, an assistant under Sean McVay, then went to Seattle for a couple of years, helped turn around that offense with Geno Smith and with Pete Carroll at the end of his tenure in Seattle, and is now in Chicago. If you watch the Bears, and if you know a Bears fan, if you have a Bears fan in your life, you know that right now they are broken. Go back 4 weeks ago, when they were in London, and he's throwing touchdowns. And look, it was a lot different. It was a lot different. We have seen moments of greatness here, moments of, oh my God, that's it. He's the number one pick. The Bears are good for the next decade from Caleb Williams this year. And we've seen a lot of the last 3 weeks as well, which is they're just a mess. They're broken. What is it now? 23 straight drives without a touchdown. They've gone 2 consecutive games without getting in the end zone, collectively, defensively as well. Bears haven't done that in 20 years. It's been 2 decades since they went back-to-back games without getting into the end zone, and something had to break. The Bears' offense is broken. Fans left early. Fans left at halftime. It was beyond depressing. You knew it was over at halftime, and this was against the Patriots. Drake May outplayed Caleb Williams. Not like it was in Washington, where Caleb played well, led them on 2 game-winning drives. Only one of them counted. Actually, neither of them counted because Jaden Daniels had the Hail Mary at the end. Not like that. This was different. And I thought it was awkward on Monday when Matt Eberflus came out and at noon Central, noon local, said, I don't have the answers yet. I said things are going to change, but I can't tell you now what is going to change. And then was asked follow-up, hey, is Shane Waldron going to be on your staff this week? And he said, we're still working on that. That was just awkward. And now Waldron is out and Thomas Brown is in. We're not going to debate what Thomas Brown can do as compared to Shane Waldron. I've always liked Thomas Brown. Liked him when he was the Rams assistant head coach and running backs coach here. Thought he got a raw deal in Carolina when Frank Reich finally handed him the play calling duties, which we knew was going to happen at one point midseason, and then promptly took them back a couple of weeks later. I don't think that was fair to Thomas Brown, and I hope he could work with Caleb Williams well, and this works. Sam, what needs to be pointed out here is that the Bears have fired an offensive coordinator in Week 10. All agreed it had to happen. But after interviewing double-digit candidates in the offseason. So you interviewed a whole long list of well-qualified candidates. You finally picked your guy, and then you get rid of him after 10 weeks. It means you picked the wrong guy, first and foremost. It also means your offensive line's a mess. And look, they're on their 5th left string, their 5th tackle here, and their 6th offensive. The injuries are a mess. But can I run down a list of guys they interviewed?
Yeah, please do, because this is going to certainly springboard my point. Yes.
Cliff Kingsbury, interviewed him, chose not to hire him. Now, Cliff had options. We thought it was going to happen in Vegas. It didn't happen. Eventually happened in Washington. He had multiple interviews. He's made it work with Jaden Daniels. Didn't make an effort to get him. Liam Cohen. I think Liam's doing a good job with Baker Mayfield. Much different situation. Veteran quarterback who has seen a lot. Liam Cohen was one of the interviews. Clint Kubiak. First 2 games of the year, the Saints scored 90 points. They'd then lost 7 in a row. The head coach got fired. Clint Kubiak, bright young offensive mind. Zach Robinson, the OC in Atlanta. Now, again, different situation, veteran quarterback. Kirk Cousins, much different thing. And I have to assume he was going to go with Raheem regardless. Don't know if the Bears ever made Zach Robinson an offer, but the Falcons are doing just fine. Greg Roman also interviewed. Greg Roman, offensive coordinator with Jim Harbaugh here in LA with the Chargers. Baltimore ties, Joe Ortiz, GM, a lot of Baltimore ties on this staff. So maybe he would have gone with Harbaugh, all things being equal. We don't know. But all these guys were interviewed. All these teams have had more offensive success than the Shane Waldron-led Bears offensively. And now you start over and you start the development process again with the first overall pick at quarterback at the midseason mark. It just didn't work.
Jaden Daniels is pretty much what I'll say. Jaden Daniels. In a season in which Jaden Daniels is not only running away with Offensive Rookie of the Year, but not just in the MVP conversation, votes. There'll be votes for Jaden Daniels for MVP. Not in the conversation, but votes.
Mm-hmm.
Likely at this point, I would say likely through week 10, not going to win MVP, but a Rookie of the Year who is in that conversation and will get votes is truly special, truly spectacular. Now, one other thing that's interesting to look at, there's always the debate with the young quarterback, defensive-minded head coach or not. But take a look, right? CJ Stroud in an interesting situation, obviously was spectacular last season. You've got Jaden Daniels, who also does not have an offensive-minded head coach, right? But you said it, Cliff Kingsbury. Look at what has happened there. How beautiful is that marriage with Cliff and Jaden Daniels? Clearly that is going well, and that is the example. And forever, these two will be linked. Much like when you had Mariota and Winston, much like when you had Goff and Wentz, when you've got quarterbacks at the top of these drafts, Baker and Sam Darnold, forever you tend to bring them up with one another. And Caleb and Jaden, certainly because of the season Jaden is having, are always going to be linked. Now, you can't say that one is necessarily definitely better than the other. And through not even an entire season, you can't say that. But that's what moves the goalposts. That's what changes the bar and the measure for what Caleb Williams is. That's how I see it. It really is, because you're looking every week at what it could be and what it's not. And it's not like Washington was not a better situation. Do you really feel that way? I don't necessarily.
They went out. Ryan Poles went out and brought in Keenan Allen. He already had DJ Moore there. He went out and drafted Roma Dunze. He has Cole Kmet. Yes, the argument can be made. The Bears have the better weapons. And right now, the Commanders have the better scheme. Now, I was skeptical, honestly, of Cliff Kingsbury with either Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, because I saw how it didn't work in Arizona.
At the end, right?
Generally speaking.
There was a moment. There was a moment.
Kyler made a bunch of athletic plays. Fine. You never went in. Defensive coordinators never went in to face Cliff Kingsbury's teams and Kyler Murray's teams and without an idea of what they were going to do. You know what the offense was. Could Kyler make enough plays, right? Did they have enough explosives in them? Could they beat us? They weren't going to beat us on the ground. Obviously, James Conner, late there, difference maker. But that's not what they were going to do. They have evolved that offense, okay? He has, to his credit, evolved that offense. 12 personnel, 13 personnel, varied running schemes, right? It is a much different offense now than it was in Arizona, and he's not getting his quarterback killed. He isn't putting it all on the kid's shoulders. It's a different scheme. That would have worked in Chicago if that's what they would have done.
Now, what about this? Anthony Richardson, another name I'll throw out there. Is there anything to the idea of letting Caleb Williams watch and learn? No. I understand Joe Flacco is not backing him up, but is there anything to it? I mean, again, Jordan Love would be the example of someone who watches and learns. Obviously, go back, Aaron Rodgers, et cetera. There's many examples. I mean, Tom Brady, of course. There's many examples of quarterbacks who don't hit the field immediately. First round, a little different. But Anthony Richardson, injured last season, so not fair. They were starting him. Okay, so that was the philosophy. Then injury takes him off the field. You start this season with him again, and now take him away for him to relieve himself of the responsibility of being the starting quarterback. Is there anything to that? Could Caleb get anything from not playing?
I love me some Tyson Bagent. Loved having him and his dad at the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago.
Star, sure, yeah.
Love that his dad ripped Tom Pelissero's arm off on live television, yes. NFL Plus television, call it what you may. But no, what's he going to learn from Tyson Bagent? Does everyone need a week off? Yeah, I just enjoyed mine. But what's he going to learn? Respectfully,
you're still
Tyson
watching the game.
Bagent.
You're watching the game from the sidelines. You're in the room still.
Nope.
You're still okay. Nope. So
you know what you can benefit from? Having Joe Flacco in the room.
Sure.
He could benefit from having a veteran quarterback.
Absolutely.
In the room.
And doesn't, yeah.
And that's what James Daniels has with Marcus Mariota. Think of him what you may. He's been around. He started. He's won games. He's been to the postseason. That's what he could benefit from. You're not going to see that. I think they should go back to Anthony Richardson right now. I supported the Joe Flacco move because I thought that team could have won. I thought they would have won those 2 games with him. They didn't. And Joe hasn't looked good. It's time to go back to Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. Truly. But I don't get the sitting Caleb Williams thing in any way at all. But I also don't know what Thomas Brown's going to do so differently. I like the new set of eyes, and I like Thomas Brown. The Bears are in a situation now where they very well could be looking for an entirely new staff in the offseason. Like the level of negativity and vitriol right now in Chicago is breathtaking. Not surprising, but breathtaking. The Bears simply haven't had great quarterback play. I mean, go ahead. When? Jay Cutler had his moments.
Cutler.
He had his moments. He certainly put up some good numbers, and obviously they had their run.
And Trubisky had a season. Right?
They went to the playoffs.
They hosted a playoff game. He actually led a game-leading drive where the kick was partially blocked and double doinked. I mean, Trubisky could have won.
Does anyone yearn for the Mitch
Nobody's
Trubisky
yearning for Mitch Trubisky. I just wanted to give him his. That's it. I wanted to give him his praise. I'm out.
The best statistical season for a Bears quarterback was Eric Kramer in 95.
Wow.
Basically, I mean, Jay Cutler, I beg your pardon, Jay Cutler may have broken some of Eric Kramer's records. It's a low bar. You thought you had it with Caleb. You very well could. There's also a rush to judgment conversation to be had here as well. That first, the idea that you want to compare Caleb to Jaden, Bears fans, give yourself a break. Give him a break. Do not do that. Don't. Jaden was put in a better situation right now. He was. You can get Caleb in a better situation. Don't write the guy off. It's ridiculous. Get yourself out of that negative headspace. I just don't know that you're going to find the answer this year. As much as I like Thomas Brown, you're probably going to have to reset next year and try to go through this all over again. Speaking of Sam resetting next year, it's becoming more and more apparent that maybe the Cowboys may have to do that as well. I said last week on this pod that the Cowboys-Eagles game really wasn't that interesting to me because I don't think the Cowboys are in the conversation anymore. The Eagles are simply the better team. That was proven on Sunday. But what happened after the game and during the game, obviously, but after the game has what has fueled all the screaming head shows all week, which, let's step back here for the record, would have been the case regardless of anything Micah Parsons said. Because if the Cowboys are going to lose to the Eagles, it's going to be the only thing on TV. It's it. Nobody cares. The Cowboys could have played a fantastic game and simply lost because Jalen Hurts made a play at the end. And all of the headlines would be fire Mike McCarthy, doom and gloom, the world is ending. It's simply the way the machine operates. But in this case, the Cowboys lost. They lost badly. They really weren't in the game. And Micah Parsons had this conversation afterwards. The question, and this is pertinent, was asked by friend of the program, Yahoo Sports writer Jory Epstein. Go ahead.
Mike's on the final year of his contract, so outside there's, of course, going to be questions. What's the sentiment inside the locker room, and what do you tell people who are wondering about whether McCarthy will be your coach next year?
That's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But the guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
You guys were 2-2.
All right. This is not a thing. It isn't. Listen to the context. Could he have phrased it better? Yes. Could he have responded, he being Micah Parsons, better than, hey, I'll explain what I meant on my podcast on Bleacher Report. Tune in later this week. Could he have been better? Yes. But listen to the context, people. Context matters. Jory asked a good and fair question. Jory and I have talked about this. We were texting about it Sunday night. Not to go too deep into the conversation, but she explained the tone. Wait till you see the video. It's not that bad. It really isn't. This is me speaking. It's him saying, hey, look, it's above my pay grade. So he immediately goes, that's not my decision on Mike. Guys, I'm not talking about that. But look, Mike can go wherever. It's about the guys here. It's about Zach Martin. It's about everyone that has fought. Guys who have more tenure. That's a fact. Than Mike McCarthy. Guys that have been in the building longer than myself, Mike McCarthy. It's about those guys. Those are guys I feel really bad for. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Screaming head shows, stop making it a deal. It isn't a deal. Now, when I read the quote Sunday night, first thing, I saw the quote, screen grab on X, and I went, oh boy, that is bad. That is bad. And that's when I texted Jory, because it was her article. And then I read the whole article, and I went, oh, this isn't that bad. It's fine. But I guarantee you this is going to be a bleep storm tomorrow morning, and it was. The story in Dallas isn't anything that Mike McCarthy said. It's that the team is bad. They're without Dak Prescott, who is out for the year, and they're losing. And they should play Trey Lance. I don't care if he has no time left on his contract. If this is it, he's a free agent next year. You gave up a 4. Play Trey Lance and just figure out whether or not you even want him back as the backup next year. Micah Parsons, this is much ado about nothing.
Wow. I see it slightly differently, only slightly. And that is the second part of what Parsons says, which is more than Mike McCarthy has done.
Right. Meaning Zach Martin's been in the building longer than Mike McCarthy.
Right. It just feels like, even in hearing it in its totality, it feels like a slight. Right? I mean, listening just to the end. I mean, just the end of it.
I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
Than Mike McCarthy ever did. That's all.
Poorly.
I just think that I thought the first part of it was really exactly to your point. The first part of it is exactly your point. He feels bad for his teammates, period.
Zach Martin's been there since 2014.
And that's a good point. That's a very good point. But what is a big deal is that Dak Prescott is done for the season. What is a big deal is that this team will not be vying for the NFC East, which I was incredibly wrong about. This team on paper, although what did I not like about this team from day one, Andrew? And I said it to you, and I just couldn't believe that they were coming into the season with this.
No idea. I kind of block out most Cowboys conversations.
And guess what? You're fair, so I will simply say it again.
Oh, the running game.
I just thought that it just made no sense.
Yeah.
It just made no sense. Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, it made no sense. Dalvin Cook being that was sort of the backup plan, Dalvin Cook. Nothing about it made sense on paper for a team that runs the ball historically so well. It just didn't make sense whatsoever. Losing Brandon Cooks, of course, that hurts, but you've got CeeDee Lamb with Dak, of course, now off the field. This is a big deal simply because of a loss. Think about this. It's a lost season in Dallas, and Andrew, we've got 8 more weeks to discuss.
Yeah. Same with every team with a losing record. I'm not going to discuss them. The screaming head shows that need to lead with them every week, every day, they're not interesting.
I will say this much. That game, and again, obviously an Eagles fan here, that game in many ways, certainly for a half, was absolutely not interesting. There was a half of a game between the Cowboys and Eagles that was, I won't say irrelevant, because in the standings it'll be relevant, but it was largely unwatchable. And in fact, you probably put on X the only part of it that was interesting. Let's see Trey Lance.
Yeah, see Trey Lance.
Let's see Trey Lance, because Cooper Rush through a half. The other part I get is CeeDee Lamb losing the ball in the sunlight. Maybe Cooper Rush looks a little better.
Thing. Yeah, Jerry Jones going, look at your iPhone. You know which way, when the sun's going to set and from where. That's all. We know where the sun's going to be. Can you pick, let's try to handle this at the coin toss at midfield pregame, so that CeeDee Lamb isn't staring into the sun. And CeeDee Lamb saying, yeah, we should put curtains up. I agree. But there are ways around this. Like legend has it, when they opened Levi's Stadium, they brought Jim Harbaugh to the stadium.
Smart.
And they said, all right, we're going to do a tour. Here's the team. And if you've been to Levi's, Sam, I know you have. They have that great big club, right? Field level club.
Beautiful.
Under the stands. And that was originally built to be behind the 49ers bench, the home team bench. Harbaugh got out there and went, "Are you bleeping kidding me? I'm staring into the sun the way the stadium is situated there in Santa Clara. I'm staring into the sun and my players are going to melt. Bleep this. We're going to be on the other sideline in the shade." And the Niners went, no. That's where the club is. That's not how we're, nope. He's like, and he went, bleep that. We're going to the other sideline, which is where they should be, in the shade. They should be in the shade, not in the sun. That's how most teams do it. We were in Washington a couple of weeks ago, we meaning the Browns. Browns baked in the sideline at FedEx. The Commanders were in the shade. Same in Philly. You bake as the visiting team. The home team is in the shade, right?
Home field advantage. And you've got to take advantage.
Dallas, you have to know where the sun is going to be so that CeeDee Lamb is not staring into the sun trying to catch a football.
This is about, I would say, in Dak's tenure as Cowboys quarterback, this is burning inferno. This is as bad as it's been. And the best news for him is that he's not anywhere near responsible, except for the fact, unfortunately, that he's making $60 million to watch it.
They are one of 32. If they were called,
and not even, they're really one of 16 at this point.
Arlington Renegades.
They're not.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
And by the way, I would say this much, not even one of 32, because at this point they're sort of in the hunt conversation. I mean, take the playoff teams out of it because they're just not in that conversation anymore. They're absolutely not.
Did I say that last week?
You did. You nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed that.
But I don't know if there's anything to, but I guess my point is there was nothing to nail. Like that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I get it. You have this faith in them because they're called the Dallas Cowboys and not the Arlington Renegades. There was nothing to nail. They're not good. That's it. Moving on. The Jets are not good either.
They're really bad.
They're
really
now
bad.
In the AFC. If we're going to say later that the Dolphins are in the playoff picture, and they are, then we need to be fair to the Jets and say that they too are in the playoff picture. They're 3-7. Miami is 3-6. 3-7, obviously worse than 3-6. But the Jets seem like the Bears to be broken. They were in Arizona. They were beaten soundly. They really weren't in the game in the second quarter, maybe the third, but definitely, it wasn't very competitive. They are kind of broken. And I think the only thing left with the Jets, if we agree that they're not making the postseason, can they go on a run? Yes. Can they go 10-7? Yes. Is it likely? No. Anybody could run the table here. But the Jets are on one of those teams, and I said this last week, that even if they were to run the table, this is going into week 10, they were not guaranteed a playoff spot at all. Just the way the math and the tiebreakers already were looking there in heading into week 10. The only question left now is Aaron Rodgers going to retire? And I don't think we've had that conversation enough. We meaning collectively the people here. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 41 in 3 weeks. He's 41 the first week of December, which means he'll turn 42 next year. There's no guaranteed money really on his contract. It's a huge cap hit, reasonable in 1 year cap hit for the Jets to get out of it next year and to just cut him. But if we assume for a second that Jeff Ulbrich, the interim head coach, is not going to be the head coach next year. Rarely do interim head coaches keep the job, and it doesn't look like he's doing anything to keep it right now. The Jets GM, Joe Douglas, is, as far as I know, the only GM in the NFL of the 32 that does not have a contract for next season. So that's not looking great considering their record. The owner, Christopher Johnson, or Woody Johnson, beg your pardon, could very likely be part of the new incoming presidential administration, as he was as ambassador to His Majesty's United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and maybe back in that same role in 2025, which means they have to hire a new head coach with Christopher Johnson, his brother, taking over. Like, why is Aaron Rodgers going to play next year? Other than he'd like to get paid. But is Aaron Rodgers going to come back to a team with a new head coach, a new GM, with a different owner? Obviously the same owner, but a different voice at the very top. And do you want him back in that situation? When you're interviewing the hot head coaching candidates in the offseason, Do any of those head coaching candidates want Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback? I'm not calling him a bad guy. I'm not here to call him names. I just look at the tape and say it's not working. He obviously had a big say in coaching and personnel decisions, even though he says he has no influence. Do you want to walk into that situation? Can you get the best head coaching candidates next season with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback? Think of how absurd that question sounds. But you have to ask that question. And if you're Rodgers, do you want to play next year in that scenario? I think the only thing left to decide now is Aaron Rodgers' retirement. Is it here at the end of this season, or does he try to play somewhere else? And if he does, Sam, what owner, what coach says, yeah, I want the quarterback who isn't very mobile, who's going to the Hall of Fame, can still play, but it didn't work, and he's going to go on ESPN for 45 minutes every Tuesday and speak whatever's in his head, stream of consciousness. Do I want that?
Aaron Rodgers will forever be linked to Brett Favre in so many ways. And I believe, was it Jeff Pearlman who wrote the great book about Rodgers and Favre, right? And their trials and tribulations in Green Bay. Interesting that Rodgers goes from the Packers to the Jets, much like Brett Favre did.
You're not saying he's going to go to the Vikings.
And as I look around, Brett Favre, it looked like it was absolutely over for Brett Favre. It was not pretty in New York. The Jets thing went terribly wrong. Actually ended up launching a different kind of a career later on. But Brett Favre then led the Vikings to an NFC championship game. And of course, yes, did throw an ill-advised interception when they were arguably in field goal range with a chance to beat the Saints on the Saints Super Bowl run where they beat Peyton Manning and the Colts in that Super Bowl. But Brett Favre led the Vikings to the NFC championship game. The Vikings are a team that is looking very much.
McCarthy.
Yes, they have him there again. They have him there, and again this year between Caleb and Anthony Richardson. Okay, do we want to thrust JJ McCarthy into that position, or and again you're saying that Joe Flacco is somebody that Anthony Richardson could learn from? Could JJ McCarthy learn from Aaron Rodgers? Now, would Rodgers be able to understand the role that Favre had in his life and how that maybe played a role in his development? Is there a possibility that Rodgers could go to Minnesota and lead a surge there, knowing that he's not the guy into the future?
Wait a minute. As the starter or as the backup?
No. As the starter to begin with. And I would say for one season. Aaron,
we will
allow you to be the starter for one season. We know that JJ's our future.
For those watching on YouTube, see what this is? This is a 0. There is a 0% chance that Kevin O'Connell, or more importantly, the Wilfs, would go, hey, you see what the Jets are doing? I'd like some of that. I would like some of that. Like, yeah, I want everything that comes with. Like, I want no.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I think the better question is,
and I mean, Sam Darnold, 3 interceptions against Jacksonville.
Oh, Sam Darnold's performance against Jacksonville has nothing to do with whether or not you want Aaron Rodgers in your building. Year. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. You just don't want everything that it brings. The better question is there a team that wants what Aaron Rodgers brings next year? Of the third, we'll include the Jets, assuming they have a new coach and maybe a new GM. Is there a single team? Talent overrides everything, right? No matter what your off-field stuff is, whatever your media obligations are, whatever your business interests are outside of football, talent will shine through, right? We're going to take the talent and deal with whatever baggage you have. But at 41 years old, can you name a single team that is going to say next year, yeah, I'll take what the Jets are having?
Looking at teams that have a quarterback situation that would even be in the conversation, the one that jumps out to me, and a team that has certainly made interesting signings over the years, and probably more so with his father than with the son, Mark Davis, but could the Raiders take a chance with Aaron Rodgers? I mean, the Raiders quarterback situation is certainly interesting at this moment in time. Could you see it? Could I see Rodgers in silver and black?
I can't.
I already saw Devontae Adams there.
Oh, does Devontae go back with him?
I mean, maybe.
Has he sold his house yet? No. I mean, I think there's more of a chance of Tom Brady playing for the Raiders than Aaron Rodgers playing.
I could see Brady taking that chance also, seeing something in Rodgers that he saw in himself with a late season or with late in his career, a surge towards a championship. And of course, Brady puts himself on a different pedestal than he does Rodgers, but Brady played in the league when Rodgers was arguably the greatest quarterback next to Brady in the league. Yes.
Please don't don't make this some clickbait headline. I don't think anybody would want Aaron Rodgers next year. I don't. Now, all that could change. He can go on a great run here in the second half of the season, and the Jets may still decide to move on. That could happen. And somebody says, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. But do we think Aaron Rodgers would ever be happy going somewhere as a veteran backup? He's not going to go Joe Flacco and wait for the rookie they just drafted to throw a couple of picks and then be called upon midseason. He's not going to do that. Joe Flacco is happy to be here. He was out of the league, still wants to play, still thinks he can start and can. It just hasn't worked. I think I'm not rooting for it. Let's be clear. I'm not rooting for it. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is some cancer to the building. I'm not one of these looking for a cheap thrill clickbait headline. I just don't know that it's going to happen. A lot could happen between now and March. God knows how many injuries could happen. Who knows what the draft board's going to look like. Quarterbacks will inevitably be overdrafted. You could have Garrett Nussmeier go back to school. I mean, plenty of things could happen. Who knows? I just don't see it. I don't. And that takes us to the playoff picture. Sam, can we put that up here? Because if I said the Jets are out of it, then I guess I need to explain why I think the Dolphins in the AFC, after seeing them win last night too, and not good on first and second down. Third down, very good. And that was the story of the game. The Dolphins made plays on third down. Odell Beckham Jr. most notably in the fourth quarter. Tyreek in the first when they needed them. And they won the game. The Dolphins are in it somehow at 3-6 because look at this. They're only 2 games back in the win column behind the Broncos. 2 games back in the win column. So they're in it. The Jets, you would have to say, in it as well. Even though I don't think they are, I think they have no shot. Dolphins, I don't know if they have a real shot, but they're at least in the conversation. That's what made the Browns loss, and I said this last week, more frustrating to the Chargers, because if you had gotten to 3-6, now you're going to New Orleans this week. You could win that game. You're 4-6, and then you're in this scrum here as well. They, of course, did not win that game, but the season feels a little bit different heading to New Orleans, but still a chance for Jameis to win a game and to maybe change the momentum at least a little bit. Regardless, the Dolphins are in it. And then we get the Chiefs and the Bills this week, both of whom at halftime this past Sunday looked as if they might let their games slip away. They didn't. The Bills rallied. They were the better team. The Chiefs, despite a great effort from Bo Nix, win the game when they blocked the field goal at the very end. To me, there are a million different ways you can go here. They haven't lost. The Chiefs haven't since Christmas a year ago. I don't know that they're the best team in football. I think the Lions are the best team in football, but they're good enough to keep winning, and undefeated is undefeated, period. Well coached, especially on special teams there. Obviously, offense, defense as well with Reed and Spagnuolo, but Dave Toub, one of the most I don't want to say appreciated because they appreciate him in Kansas City. Those who know that he's the best in the business in special teams, but he won the game for you right there. I also think some of the officiating in this game, don't believe internet trolls who think that Pat Mahomes is asking for help from the officials. That's not what he was doing. That's stupid. Don't fall for that clickbait garbage. But I do think, on Travis Kelce's game, record-setting touchdown, Noah Gray came in motion, wasn't set. That wasn't called. Some of the illegal procedures that aren't called in the game in New Orleans where Tyler Algier, Raheem Morris challenged whether Algier was in on third down. He wasn't. He lost the challenge. They went for it on fourth down and scored. On that third down, Darnell Mooney was moving, took 3 steps forward. 3. Look at the next-gen dots at the snap, 3 steps forward, wasn't called. I mean, some of those are just bonkers, but Chiefs and Bills this week, yay, should be fun.
It's going to be a great one. And as we look at the AFC, another thing, Andrew, I just wanted to go back to the Steelers' victory over the Commanders. Really, maybe the game, the game, Lions Texans probably game of the week in many ways, especially the way that it happened in the second half with the Lions coming back in that game. But what a play by the Steelers to draw the Commanders offsides on that play. I mean, that was really spectacular by Russ to come out there and draw them off. That was pretty fun to see that happen.
There was no play.
And to see Russ's look, by the way, Russ's look here is pretty hilarious. I mean, that dance is probably a little much, but that was pretty special. Then what we didn't see there actually is Tomlin then saying, "Got him." Tomlin clearly, I mean, as you have said, right? I mean, that's was
coaching right there. They won, and I feel bad for Johnny Newton, the kid from Illinois, the rookie who was fantastic in Champaign. Part of the law firm there on the defensive line for Brett Bielema, and jumped off sides. I mean, the kid flinched, and it's a shame. There was no play call. They broke the huddle. In the huddle, there is no play call. We are not running a play.
Now we don't need to nitpick that because it absolutely worked, of course, for Tomlin and Russ. I was thinking when they came out, I was thinking the same thing. They're trying to draw them here. I mean, certainly they'll try first. Maybe they have a play, but they're going to try at least a hard count at first. It did cross my mind, especially because you've said how smart it was for Tomlin to have both quarterbacks, Fields and Russ, and maybe each week not say who's going to be the starter, certainly the first time that he had Russ start. What about having Fields and Russell Wilson on the field for that play?
They could have done. They haven't done it yet.
I just thought
saving it for a special occasion.
I thought that was a special occasion. I thought that was a great moment, and it worked. You're right. It worked. Russ's hard count simply worked, and that's enough. But I just thought, wow, now they could try that again. If you're a defense and you see both quarterbacks coming out, you're thinking at this point, okay, they've got something up their sleeve. They've got to play here. And that would be the flinch. Obviously, the flinch happened anyway, but I was just thinking there's an opportunity to bring both guys out. And I'm sure they've got to play up their sleeve, 2-point conversion, whatever it might be, where both quarterbacks are on the field and they convert. I could absolutely see that happening. And only one other thing to say as we look at the AFC, Andrew. Wow, that Texans-Lions game Sunday night. You and I saw that game, slightly different. You think the Lions are the best team in football. I just thought the Texans were going to bring their best performance of the season.
In the first half.
Wow, did they in the first half?
Yeah.
Wow, did they?
Offensively, this team can't get into the end zone of the second half.
What is going on?
They are right now. And listen, you were a revelation last year. Bobby Slowick got head coaching interview. CJ Stroud's the real deal. Not in any way changing my level of enthusiasm for either of those two, especially the quarterback. It's a tough league. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone watches film. Everyone else gets paid. And the Lions right now are as good as anyone. I think the Lions are the best team in football, full stop.
And one other quick one about the AFC, just Chargers. I do see the Chargers. I said earlier, playoff team, and it feels like they're obviously on that track. And sure. I just don't see anyone taking them out of that. I just see the Chargers are going to be a playoff team.
I think they're a well-coached team that has still some major hole. Let me put it this way. When they get a couple of drafts, if they draft well, this team will be dangerous. They're very good right now, and Justin Herbert is playing great. They're overcoming a lot of deficiencies there. Good coaching. They're not messing up. They're not turning the ball over. And they're winning, to their credit. Absolutely to their credit. NFC playoff picture still, as mentioned, as the Lions atop. The Lions are the best team. The 49ers, Christian McCaffrey came back, and they have a sign of life now. Let's see if they could turn things around. The Niners this week at the Seahawks. We'll do another show later in the week on that one in the NFC. The Falcons still are going to win the South. They are in Denver this week. Atlanta only has one more division game left in the NFC South. They get the Panthers coming up in a little bit as well. They've already beaten the Panthers once. Carolina, Bryce Young looked like the old Bryce Young. Honestly, that opening drive, the first quarter, I'm like, all right, there's the number 1 overall pick. Okay, I remember that guy. I saw that guy play in the Sugar Bowl a couple of years ago. That guy's good. But we'll see if he could actually maintain that. The Eagles are what they are. They're running the ball well. I think the Falcons are going to be fine. Younghoe Koo missed 9 field goals or something like that. They would have won the game if he hadn't missed
2 there. Yeah, but
all those field goals. No, I think he missed 3. He missed more than 2.
I know the Niners missed 3.
Okay, whatever. Maybe Younghoe Koo missed only 2. Commander's still a very good team that I would not want to play in the postseason. And I think the Rams, look, the Rams have an interesting setup here. They go to Foxborough this week for a 1:00 kickoff. Never fun. If they beat the Patriots on a short week, not easy. It's as long a trip as you're going to get from LA to Foxborough to play at 1:00. If they beat the Patriots, they're 5-5. They come back. They get the Eagles next Sunday night here in LA. That sets up well for you, right? You could win that game. You're right back in the conversation. You're still very much in the conversation right now. And that's your NFC.
Yeah, one other thing. The Buccaneers are still interesting to me. The Buccaneers obviously won't get completely healthy because Godwin won't come back, but just wanted to give a little love to what I thought was clearly the play of the week, which was Baker Mayfield escorting Bosa out of bounds before converting a 4th and 7. This is, I thought, the greatest feat of strength that we've seen so far this season in the NFL.
I also want to, and by the way, Tom Brady
special.
on the broadcast said that's as good a play as I've ever seen a quarterback make. I'm not suggesting that Joey Bosa wouldn't have ripped my arm out of my socket like the Dana Carvey, Kevin Nealon Russian weightlifter sketch from SNL 30 years ago or 40 years ago by now. He probably would have. Does it look like he's trying to bring him down? Or does it look like he's almost waiting for Baker to just throw it away and he doesn't want a flag?
Or does it seem like he's going to push him all the way out of bounds, maybe, right?
Baker's going to throw it away. I'm not going to tear his arm out of his socket. Like, it kind of looks like he's just kind of going along for the ride.
He does make one swipe at the ball, which I like.
Yeah,
right.
Like, I was like, all right, I've got him. I've stood him up. They're going to blow this dead. He'll throw it away. I could be wrong. Like, I have no idea. I did not hear Baker nor Bosa post game.
Wow.
But it's still, regardless, an amazing throw. And that's 4th down, right?
4th and 7. It's 4th and 7.
That's an amazing play.
They lose the game, but they tie the game on this drive because
Baker.
of this.
Yeah.
And the game is over if they don't convert here. And wow, what a special play. So I think the Buccaneers, I guess what I'd say is you and I both, not that we had it wrong. We both thought the Buccaneers would not be a playoff team this season. We didn't see I didn't see Baker and Mike Evans capturing the magic that they had from the season previous. And we both thought that Kirk Cousins would have the Falcons exactly where they are in this moment. But Baker Mayfield, and you know it first and foremost, Andrew, but Baker Mayfield, when Baker Mayfield is right, and he has been right for 2 seasons, and of course, before that spectacular comeback as a Ram against the Raiders on Thursday night. I mean, Baker Mayfield, when he is right, he is fun to watch, and he is a leader. I mean, without Godwin and Evans, that was special on Sunday against the Niners. That was quite a performance.
I'm happy for Baker. I've said that repeatedly. We'll always have 2020. And I'm happy he has found some success, more than just some. I'm happy he's found success and he's found a home. He got another contract. I'm happy, definitely, for Baker and his family and everything they have done in Tampa. And that is going to be it for this post-Week 10, middle of the week edition of Thinking Out Loud. Be sure to like and send and tell your friends and support and whatever it is you want to do on this podcast visually on YouTube, at Siciliano Show on the YouTube, or wherever you find your podcast, Thinking Out Loud podcast. We thank you for participating today. For Sam Patesh, my name is Andrew Siciliano. Have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you later.